Today is Thursday, January 5th, 2012. This is the start of an interview with Mr. Joseph J. Bieda at the RSVP offices of the Catholic Services of Macomb, located at 26238 Ryan Road, Warren, Michigan. Joe is 78 years of age, born February 14th, 1933, and currently resides at 11223 Irvington Drive, Warren, Michigan, 48093. My name is James Buckley. I will be the interviewer, and Marilyn Redlicki will be the videographer today. And Joe, would you, for the record, please state the branch of service you served in?
Well, I enlisted in the U.S. Air Force in September of 1952, September 18th, and that was just about the same time that the Army Air Force became the U.S. Air Force. So they dropped the Army, we were a branch or a unit by itself. So that was kind of a moment in time that kind of tied me in with the service. And how we got to enlist in the Air Force was interesting. All of our friends we were out of high school. All of our friends were being drafted in Korean conflict into the Army, maybe, and the Marines. So we decided we couldn't wait for them. So we went out and talked it over a beer, and we went to the Navy. And the Navy said, our quota is full, we'll pick you up in about 6 weeks. Well, we were feeling so good that day that we said, no, we're not going to wait, and we went into the Air Force. And the Air Force says, well, we can't take you right now. You have to go home and drink some coffee and then come back in about 2 days. So which we did. And they took us from Fort Wayne and took us right into Lackland Air Force Base. We started our basic training there, and it was 3 months of really learning how to live again, not being as free as you are when you're at home. You were told when to get up, when to shave, when to eat, when to dress, and I picked up a real nice habit, my wife tells me. I could eat a meal in less than 5 minutes. And so that was my training that I got at Lackland. And from there, they sent me to Clovis, New Mexico.
Well, let's before we get too far ahead, let's back up and kind of go through a little bit about your youth and so forth, and we'll get up to that part.
Okay.
Because you know, we did off camera discuss a little bit about that, but we want to get it on for the record. So you were born in Hamtramck, I guess?
Born in Hamtramck on Gallagher. Then when we were about 4 years old or 5 years old, we moved to Mitchell, which is still in Hamtramck, and that's when I started to go to school at St. Ladislaus, which is maybe 2 miles away, also in Hamtramck. I went there maybe a year, and my dad moved to Detroit. This was during the Depression. Homes were reasonable. He picked a home, a fix-it-up home, and he did a heck of a job. Anyway, we moved to Detroit, where I went to Transfiguration School, 8 years, graduated in '47, right after the war. Then we went to high school, got out of high school in '51. And about a year later, after high school, I decided to go into the service. When we lived in Hamtramck, I worked at Lindson's Five and Dime store, which was on the corner of Joe Campo and Kniff, and that was a nice part of history too. That was a nice, interesting part of life. Got to see Christmas in Hamtramck as it was decked out back then, with a lot of Five and Dime stores, a lot of good Polish restaurants, and good memories. Then we went into the service, and I kind of briefed you where we were at the service. Is there anything that I'm missing?
Where did you work after you graduated from high school for that short period of time?
Yeah, I went to St. Francis Hospital, and I worked there while I was in high school. I stopped at Lenson's and got a better job at St. Francis, where I was a registrar, and we would sign people in, give them the bills and things like that. I worked there for a couple of years and didn't see much of a future there, and so we decided to, coupled with the fact that the war was going on and our friends were all leaving, we decided, 4 of us decided that we were going to just join the service, which we did. And from then on, after Clovis, New Mexico, after Lackland basic training, after Clovis, New Mexico, which was kind of uneventful other than the fact that we were getting ready to be shipped out, I was given the choice either to go to Far East, FIF Command they called it, Far East, which could have been Guam or any place from California to Japan. And I said, well, okay. So they sent me home for a month. I came back and deactivated the entire base, and I didn't have a choice. I went to Germany with everybody.
I see. What kind of duties did you have? What was like your MOS?
My MOS was actually, as it turns out, a statistician, but the MOS number was like a clerical number.
Mm-hmm.
And they assigned me to work in the hospital again. So I ended up working for the 50th Air Force Base Tactical Hospital, they call it. And that was in New Mexico. It was a unit that was a reservist unit, and they activated us because of the Korean War and the need for pilots. And like I say, they sent us to Germany for training and whatever. And so that was very interesting.
So that would have been what in probably excuse me, around 1953 or so.
Yeah, it was 53 in July. We went from Galveston, Texas, by boat by the General N.B. Stewart. It was a World War II transport ship. They took us down to Puerto Rico, and then from Puerto Rico to Bremerhaven, Germany. It was about 17 days. I counted it 17, but I remember it being much longer. And we picked up 3,000 Army guys, Puerto Ricans. Each one of them carried at least a dozen of limes with them. So when they got on the boat, all we smelled was lime. And they ate the lime because it was a way of them preventing them from getting seasick.
Oh.
So they were sucking on these limes, and I was smelling limes, and I just had an upset stomach for 17 days. So me and a couple other people decided we're not going to go down in a barracks or down in a hole like they told us to for whatever reason, I can't remember. But so we decided to stay on board, and we fell asleep. They had roll call, and of course 3 of us were missing. Well, the nice part of it, they never even slowed the boat down thinking we fell over. They just kept on mushing, and here we are sleeping underneath underneath some tarps or something. I don't remember what. But they finally found us, and they awarded us KP duty. They said, because you're doing such a nice job, we're going to let you work at a bakery. So I worked in a bakery for about a week and a half, I guess it was. I don't remember. It's the only time I ate. After the cook made something, or baker made something, and I got the fresh stuff. And other than that, it was really an uneventful trip. I'm making it sound glamorous. It wasn't glamorous. It was kind of boring. You read all the books, and guys would want to read something new, so you tear the book in half, give them the front part that you finished, and you'd finish the book, and then you'd start looking for you to get the other part to see how the story ends. And that went on and on and on. It was other than that, was watching the porpoises follow the boat, and the water turned from green to blue because you're in deeper water. And we got to Galveston, or we got to Bremerhaven, and this is the middle of the night if I remember right. And they offloaded us into a train, and we spent the night traveling to our base in Hahn Air Base, Hahn Flugplatz Air Base. And we got there, and they gave us our assignments, middle of the night again. They fed us, and next day we went to work. And we had an advance party. This was a brand new base, I should add. And they had an advance party that came ahead of us, 6 months, to set up the hospital, to set up the barracks, set up security and everything else. So when we got there, we just kind of moved in and went to work. So the next day we went to work. And that was my experience of traveling via courtesy of Uncle Sam on an ocean.
Well, that sounds like it was a lot better than a lot of the folks.
Yeah, they were crammed in during World War II.
really.
Yeah, I didn't have that bad. No, it wasn't that bad. Other than the smell of lime.
That's interesting,
Yeah.
that you say that they would take all those limes with them and for that
No,
particular purposes.
I'm saying they had a dozen each, maybe they had about a bushel each, because that's all you smelled was lime. And, you know, that's fine, that's their culture, that's what they believe in.
Oh, yeah.
All I know is I had an upset stomach.
Yeah, that would not be pleasant
Yeah.
in rough seas, that's for sure. So, when you were in Germany and so on and so forth, did you continue on then with this, like a similar assignment in the hospital?
Yeah, they pretty
area?
much kept us rotating in the hospital. I had, it was kind of a static job. You would admit patients, and then when they made me a statistician, that was interesting only in the fact that you read a bunch of numbers of how many people were hurt, how many were killed over the month, and it gets kind of gruesome, but it gets that kind of a detail that you'd have to compute and send forward to a central SHAFE operation where they made some kind of a report for a general to look while he is eating breakfast or something. But it was, I guess it was important to know what strength you had and how many people were off sick. I had other duties there. I assisted in the x-ray there for a couple of times when somebody was ill. I worked the flight line, which was interesting, only in the fact that you see planes flying in and out. And that's when I seen Chuck Yeager, who was the commander of 417th Fighter Squadron, then when he took the F-86 up in maybe 2,000 feet, didn't stall it out, but just had it hovering, and you could see it just by dropping by 100 feet at a time. So he had it just on the brink of stalling out and flipping out. So that probably was my highlight of working a flight line. I didn't do that very much. They had people that knew what they were doing to do that. I worked in the office most of the time. But it was interesting.
While you were in Germany, did you have like a girlfriend at home, or were you weren't married? I don't.
No, I wasn't married. No, there was some. Well, my parents wrote to me regularly. My sister did. My cousins did. Everybody under the sun would write me a letter. There were some people that I worked at St. Francis that also wrote me a letter. One in particular was Alice. She wrote me the longest. She went to college, and she would always tell me about what's going on, and you know, in the real world, I guess you call it, and how she was doing in school and things like that. Then you had buddies that were in the service. The four that I enlisted with, we all went different routes. One went to Morocco, one went to England, I went to Germany, and then the fourth one stayed at home. So we kind of kept that communications going between us just to see how we were doing, good or bad. I think I had the best job. I mean, I had Germany, I could fly wherever I wanted to and visit other countries and had a lot of free time. And it was a lot better than Morocco, where my buddy was living in a tent. He's here in Michigan now, and he lived in a tent and had all kind of bugs crawling all over him. I just told him that's too bad. So, but while in Germany, you know, you have good transportation. You could go anywhere you want. The trains were back in operation. This is like 8 years after the war. There's still cities that were still under construction or cleanup, however you want to call it. But the trains are running, so we got to travel everywhere. There was bus service. We took a lot of tours on buses, seen a lot of the country that way, and seen all of Spain, all of France, all of Italy, all of Germany, everywhere that's free. I got to see a little bit of England and a little bit of Denmark and Holland and Austria and Belgium, just about every place. So it was an adventurous 3 years. As compared to some of my friends that went to college for 4 years, when I came back I was 4 years behind them in everything, and that kind of upset me. Upset only in the fact that I was having a good time, they were studying, and now they're having a good time, and I'm studying. So it took me a while to get a degree that way.
So, did you then come back and like use your well, like a GI Bill type of
Oh, yeah.
thing for your education?
Yeah, when I came back, it was in 1956, and times were not really that great. There were not too many jobs out. So I tried a lot of places, decided, well, I better go back to school, but I went part-time. I didn't go full-time. I was still looking for a job. I wanted to move out. I wanted to have my own place, and not used to living with my parents anymore because you've been away for so long. And then a recruiting sergeant came back, and I was about that close from re-upping. It was a good life. It was adventuresome, like I say, but I just didn't quite make that step. And then about, maybe 6 months, 4 months after I got out, let's see, July, September, yeah, about 4 months, I got a job with Plymouth Engine. And while I was working for Chrysler, I was also going to school. I went to the Chrysler Institute for a year just to try and get my brain working again. And then I went into a drafting, I can't remember the name of the school, but it was a small job shop type drafting where they taught you the real life of drafting rather than the college type of curriculum you had. And then from Plymouth Engine, I got a job working for Chrysler Missile, which I enjoyed. That was on a board, working on a board. And I worked for great guys, all electrical engineers that we worked on test equipment for the Jupiter and the Jupiter C missile. And after that, I got laid off, went to Burroughs, worked on a Polaris submarine, working on a board again, making harnesses for some of the computers were, back then the computers were large, and if something malfunctioned, they would rip out this one harness, which was all the wires everywhere, and replace it without trying to test it out. They just threw it away, put another one in. That's what we designed. And then from there, I got laid off right before Christmas, thank you, Burroughs. And I started a day after Christmas working for Chevrolet Facilities and Production Planning down in the GM building. So I started working for GM in 1961, December. I worked there 4 days, and they gave me 4-day vacation next year. I accrued 4 days somehow, I don't know how, but that was wonderful. But anyway, that's where I started. I worked facilities. I worked there, I don't know how many years, about 4 years, and then I got transferred to the GM Building Division, worked there 4 years, and I transferred out to the Tech Center where I retired and stuff like that. But like I say, the 4 years I spent overseas, they were, 3 years rather, they were adventuresome only because I got to see so many places. I got to go, I'm Catholic, I got to see Lourdes in France, the shrine there, and I got to go to Fatima in Portugal, so I got to see 2 holy places, what we consider holy places. That was interesting.
Very good.
I could ramble on and on and on. This is without a coffee even.
Well, we kind of bounced ahead a little bit, but then I know you've got a number of things that we want to share and go over some of the documents and different things, and be sure that we get all those covered today. So why don't you start with some of the things that you did bring?
There was one thing that I really would like to say. You know,
sure.
When I say it was adventuresome, I got to go to the Grand Prix of France in Reims and the Grand Prix of Europe in Nuremberg. I love cars, and when I was there, I spent more time walking through the parking lots, taking pictures of the Bugattis, the Bentleys, all the exotic cars that you only see in I only saw in the news magazine. Right. So that was very, very nice for me. And 24-hour races, and we were scheduled to go to the 3rd race, the Le Mans. I don't know if you remember it, but it was 55 or 56. They had a tremendous crash. The Mercedes crashed. Yeah. It hit the the
I
grandstand.
was in like 54 because
Was it 54?
yeah,
All right.
because in the United States the AAA got out of sponsoring or sanctioning auto races, and that's when the United States Auto Club was formed.
Oh, okay.
And after that
54.
that tragedy.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
bad. But anyway, that was some of the highlights that that I remember of traveling to Europe. You know, going through all the capitals like Paris, London, Rome. That was exciting. You know, especially Rome, see all the Colosseum and everything else. But it was just meeting people. It was really interesting. I jumped ahead of you again. I tell you, I ramble on.
Well, that's the thing, and I kind of wanted to go back because I know we
Okay.
skipped over so many things that you brought that you wanted to cover, but I thought, well, it doesn't really matter whether we do it in this fashion. It's just so that we get the information out, and it's something that you're comfortable with
Okay.
talking about and so forth. So there's no
Well,
right and wrong way.
All right, there's
to
a
do
couple of things that I pulled off the internet, and it tells about the 50th Fighter Bomber Wing, and I'd like to leave that with you.
Sure.
It tells you the Bomber Wing was made up of 3 squadrons, the 10th, 81st, and 417th, and the 417th was commanded for a time by Chuck Yeager, and that's the highlight. So I'd like to leave that for you. Then I'd like to show you a picture. This is how hard I work. This is at the White Horse Cafe. There's 4 of us. I don't know if you see it or not, but that's
Maryland's got a
working very,
good
very
shot
hard.
of
Yep.
it.
My wife wanted me to hang this up at our VFW in St. Clair Shores, and I said I will one of these days.
Okay.
Oh, look at that handsome guy.
Yeah, yep,
Yeah,
look
that's
it. Okay.
Got it, Marilyn?
Yep.
Okay.
Drop it?
Gotcha.
Yep.
Gotcha. Yes.
Okay, good.
See, are you on here?
Oh,
Obviously.
yeah. Yeah.
And
I'm the one that's kind of relaxed.
this one over here. Oh, in the back.
Yeah, we're all relaxed. There's one more that we took. I was playing an accordion at the time. That's really nuts. That's enough. Okay, we'll cover anything you think I missed. You want me to leave this here?
Oh, well, I want you to obviously take it home so you
All right.
don't
I
forget
thought you had a
it.
copy of that,
I
John.
do have a copy.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if you need that, but
Okay, well, that's fine. We'll have this. And this other is what, the second decade of,
the F-86 Sabre, and it's written kind of generically, but it tells you the story. It tells about the 50th when it came over, how many aircraft, who was the colonel, or who was the CO of the time. It doesn't cover too much of the hospital. We were kind of a support unit for the fighter bomber wing. Obviously, their job was to, fly airplanes. Ours was to make sure that they were okay. That's about it. That's my life.
well, when did you and your wife meet? And
Oh, that was interesting.
all
The
of
5th
that.
guy.
Mhm.
This is interesting. This will be another story. I hope you have a lot of digital.
Oh, yes.
The 5th person that was supposed to join us in enlisting was her brother, Stanley. And what happened is Stanley, for one reason or another, chickened out. He didn't go. 4 of us enlisted. So he waited. I think he was drafted a year after we were in, and he was let out a year before we were out. He was in 2 years, we were in 4. And so to make up for it, he decided that he was going to have a party for us as a welcome home party for all 4 of us. Well, my wife could probably tell you this story better, but anyway, that's where I met my wife, in his basement, in her
In
basement,
my basement.
and she met me there, and she decided that she wanted to corral me, and she did.
You didn't
So
tell
that's
him
how
I
we
should
met.
invited 36 girls down in my
No,
basement.
that's not historical. But anyway, that's how we met. We met at her brother's party, welcoming us home, and that's when she started to date me.
How about your sons?
Want to get into my?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd like to do that. I've got 2 sons. One is Stephen Bieda. He's a senator
State.
currently of Michigan, and he's the oldest. And I have David, who's an environmental engineer, and he's in Colorado Springs, and he has two great daughters. He gave me two great daughters and two granddaughters, I should say. One is Jessica, who's 16, just got her
Oh,
permit.
15. She's
15. I'm glad I got my prompter with me. And Rebecca, who is 11.
Yeah, she's 11. She'll be 12 in the January.
This goes on all the time. But anyway, I've
I know
got
the
two sons.
feelings.
Yeah, I've got two sons, proud of both of them equally. That's about it.
Okay, very good. Well, let's see, we've got, I thought your wife had said something. But,
Did I use the GI Bill? Because that's one thing I wanted to say.
that's what I wanted to get to. I just briefly mentioned that, and then you said about going on to school. So anyway, did you use the GI?
Yes, I did, and it was because of the GI Bill that I was able to go through, I think, 3 different schools, trying to find my way into what I wanted to do. And with the GI Bill, I was able to do that. Like I say, I took that drafting job. It was more of a hands-on school, more like a trade school than anything, and the GI Bill helped me a lot. And it was also during a time when I was working, was not working, so that bill really helped. So I got a lot to thank for that. And then I got, like I say, I got the job with Chrysler, and then moved on, and still use the bill. But it took me quite a while to get my degree from Wayne, and that was only because I was working, like a lot of people, working and trying to go to school and carry so many hours. So that was my school.
When you were overseas, what kind of feedback did you get in the newspapers or whatever you were exposed to? You know, I guess it was somewhat censored probably coming through the military, but I mean, as far as like how the Korean conflict was like supported by the folks here in the United States.
Well, you know, that's one thing that I don't recall too much. Most of our papers were the papers that I got from home, Free Press, the Polish paper even sometimes, and Stars and Stripes was our means of knowing what's going on. We had a daily paper. It was kind of a newscast that would come out through the CO, but I didn't remember reading too much of it. It was more of instructions rather than newsworthy. There was the local papers, but unless you could read German very well, I couldn't. You wouldn't know what's going on. But there was one thing of real interest that comes to my mind now. When I was in Germany, there was a movie that came out. It was called The Golden Plague. I'll never forget that. It was about the GIs being in Germany, and the title it says it all, The Golden Plague.
Don't worry about it, Jim. I'll take it off the DVD.
Okay, go ahead.
Yeah.
I forgot to press the start button on the recorder.
I thought I said something real important there for a minute.
No, it just dawned on me. Brain fade.
But anyway, the movie was about the GIs being there, and the Germans wanted us there because we were stimulating their economy, buying their cars, buying their food, doing everything that you would think of stimulating an economy, buying their clothes and stuff. At the same time, they were resentful that we were there because we were like a plague. We were all over the place, and they didn't have a chance to compete with our money or whatever you want to, however you want to measure it.
Right.
But they didn't have the ability to do the things that we had the ability to do with. And so I never seen the movie, but I heard a lot about it. Now, my wife and I visited Germany about 10 years ago, and we brought that subject up, and the person that we were speaking with says, gee, I never heard of it, but he was interested in it, and I says, well, just think of the title, Golden Plague, and he says, yeah, it kind of says it all, doesn't it? And I said, it does. It was nice. So that's another thought that just came to me.
Well, and that's true really, when you stop and think of it, even in the United States, the areas outside of military bases and so forth, you know, the influence in the economy that the soldiers, sailors, whatever, have is tremendous. But the local citizens, they appreciate that, but then they seem to also be negative or griping or whatever about the military
Yeah.
and the so-called problems that they cause.
Oh,
which,
sure.
and you know, it's like you say, if it wasn't for the military base, you know, they would
It
be
wouldn't
doing
exist, yeah.
something. Generally, it would be earning far less of an income for them than what they're currently earning.
Well, close
Yeah,
to home example would be Alpena when they closed the base down there. We got from one of the real estate fellas, we got a tape of all the homes that were up for sale because base isn't there anymore. Everybody's gone. Here's these homes, and you could buy a real nice home back then, you know. But we looked at a couple homes and we said no, we don't want to go there. But now they're diversified. The base is used for a lot of other things. It's being used, but it's nothing like it was back then. So it does have a great impact, and I think people know that.
Yeah, it's a little different world, and you know, I am just you know, not that far behind you, and as far as his age, I was in high school during this time, and started college in '56 when you were getting out of the service, and so you know what you mean when you were saying about you know, the jobs being scarce and all the different things, and the world was a little different place at that
Sure
point
was.
in time.
Sure was.
But, when did the Korean conflict? When did that end? Do you recall?
53.
That's what I was thinking. Yes, that was pretty
So
much.
I got in on the tail end of it.
Yeah.
Actually,
And you were in like an occupational
in
category,
Germany,
so to
yes.
speak. Yes.
Yeah, we were under SHAFE, and well, I think we all have a ribbon for being occupational, but our ribbon says Army Occupation of Germany. And yeah, we were there, like I say, till '56, and that was part of it. It was a good time for a lot of people, and it was a bad time for a lot of people. The German people were wonderful people. My experience, anyway, with the people that I met, the locals. They did everything for you. They weren't bitter. They, on the surface at least, they weren't bitter. They appreciated you. There was a great fear because of the Cold War. There was still a fear of you know,
Right.
Russia or whatever. And I was stationed at Wattsburg, Germany, which was right on the border of Germany and Russia. And there was a tremendous fear and a tremendous, well, I don't like the word tremendous, but there was a strong feeling of, you know, our time is limited, they're going to come across here anyway, so let's have all the fun we can. And that was a really crazy atmosphere there. I was stationed there only 3 or 4 weeks on maneuvers, and then I went back, and you know, it just impresses you. You know, when you're a young man, a lot of things impress you. That was one of them.
Did you initially enlist for 4 years, or were you?
Yes.
Did you
No, 4
re-up
years.
or?
No, we
Okay,
went
so
for 4 years.
you went in for 4 years, and then you know, you mentioned about enlisting into the Army Air Force, and you said you went to the various other branches and finally were accepted at the Air Force. Is that right?
Yeah,
Kind of
we
the way it went.
yeah, we went to the Navy first. We were trying to beat the Army, and Marines. So we went into to the Navy first, and we really wanted to go into the Navy because there was a lot of things they were offering, but their quota was full. They couldn't take us, so we were happy enough to say, well, we'll come back. The guy said in 6 weeks. Well, we changed our mind. We went to the Air Force. And he says, oh yeah, we could take you, but go home for a couple of days, get your stuff in order,
Yeah.
and come back, which we did. And that was it. Until 4 years later, I came back home.
Were the other branches Were their requirements the same, a 4-year enlistment or at that time?
No, the Navy, I believe, was 3. That was another reason we were going into the Navy. Their requirements were 3, Air Force was 4, Marines and Army, they grabbed you for 2 years. Unless you enlisted, then you enlisted for 3. But drafted, you were 2.
Right.
Why would you want to enlist into the it sounds terrible on tape. Well, why would you want to enlist into the Army for 3 when you could get drafted for 2? And then still have the chance of re-upping if you wanted to. Service life is a good life. It's a real good life. I mean, you're well fed, you're well taken care of, you've got the opportunity to travel, you got the best of everything. But at the same time, you give up a lot.
Well, and yes, and especially, you know, when you start having a family.
Absolutely.
And it's about like working for a major automotive manufacturer or really any major company, because
That's
your life's not your own. That's how
Yeah.
we ended up in this area. So, yeah, know what you're talking about when you speak of that. But, was there anything that we didn't cover that you'd like to talk about?
I gotta check with the warden. Did I cover everything?
Well, in Germany, how about their, what do they call when you go to the outside bars? What do they call it?
Why do you relate me to bars all the time?
Well, you said you had so much fun.
Well, I mean, that's all there was for us to do off base.
But what do
We'd
they,
either
what
go
do
to a
they call
movie
the
or go to a
outdoor,
bar.
what, beer gardens?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
But how about the
Well, there was one that we used to go to.
Oktoberfest, or whatever it was?
Well, I don't remember too much of those. But there was the Schinderhannes, which is a real famous bar right outside the base. It was called the Cave. That's what Schinderhannes means, I think. And it was very popular. Everybody went there, and you had a few beers, and you talked, and you did whatever the hell you get, or whatever. See what I mean?
Yeah.
Whatever you want to do. And so that was, and then the White Horse Inn, which you got a picture of, and that's all you did. That was socializing.
Where was the White Horse Inn, though?
It was right outside the base. Everything was outside the base. Usually bars.
The town of Germany. I mean, what's the name of the town of Germany? Han?
Hahn was the air base, and Lotzenhausen was the town right outside the base. Yeah. So now I think we covered it all. I don't know what else to do. I'm starting to
Well, that's
repeat myself. I don't want to do that.
well. We covered you know, some nice items. And do you have something?
Yeah, now were you there during the Berlin airlift?
No, that was in.
That was,
That was before the war ended, and that was like 44. Wait a minute, no, that was in 47, I think.
okay, so that was after, yeah, I'm not really sure what,
Yeah,
what
that
the
was
time
before-
frame
It
was.
was after, it was
It
after
was
the war.
after,
And before the Korean War started.
before the Korean War.
Right, right.
Okay.
That was kind of drawing the lines in the sand, and you're not gonna do this, and we're gonna do this, and
Okay.
all that
Right.
kind of thing.
So by the time you were there, Germany was sort of well and thoroughly divided.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I wanted to go to Berlin, and the only way you could get in is by flying, and the time that I had off to go there was the time that they wouldn't allow us.
okay.
And I had to travel in Germany in civilian clothes. I couldn't wear a uniform at that time, which is okay, but you know, off base we could just go to local bars with a uniform, but generally we wore civvies. Yeah, it was crazy times.
Yeah, during that era, like you say, it was really a divided country, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Was there much division between the American administrative section and the British or the French at that point? Or
Not
was-
that I experienced.
Okay,
There
so-
might have been, but I didn't witness it, and I couldn't say. We were mostly in British or American sectors. We hardly ever got into the French areas. I've seen a lot of nice places in Germany. I went to the Munich Museum, the Mercedes Museum, which I enjoyed. That's in Stuttgart. And that was interesting. There's a lot of things to do when you have time.
Okay, well, we want to thank you for
Oh,
your
it's my
service.
pleasure. It was my pleasure, believe me.
Enjoyed our visit this morning.
I thank you, Mr. James,
So Marilyn's gonna
Marilyn.
Make a,
My wife refused, my mustache, story of my mustache. My wife refused to make, she's the best soup maker in the world, let me qualify that. So she refused to make me soup.
Because it was 90 degrees.
Okay, I said, all right. So I started growing a mustache. She started to say, well, what kind of soup do you want? I says, no, I'm just gonna grow my mustache. So in July, she gets back at me. She starts making hot soup on the hottest day in July, and I had to eat it. So now I'm holding out for a pork roast or something. That's the story of the mustache.
yeah, they have their way of getting their point across.
Yeah, sooner or later,
That's
they
for
wear you
sure.
out. It's, don't take that, jeez. Thank you very much, Marilyn. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
James.